New attend Governor Tony Evers announcing the State Building Commission approved several key projects across the state totaling some $262 million. Among those projects includes improvements to Lincoln Hills School like locks for living units and control replacements. It's part of the governor's plan to eventually transition the youth prison into an adult facility. The governor released a statement in conjunction with the announcement saying, in part, quoting, "These updates will bolster our efforts to keep our staff and youth in our care safe while making necessary changes aimed at ultimately transitioning the facility to an adult institution as we work to close Lincoln Hills and Copper Lake and move our kids closer to home as soon as safely and responsibly can," end quote. Other projects include camera upgrades at Waupun Correctional Institution. Cameras will also be changed from analog to digital, as well as replacing cameras in the restrictive housing unit to create a safer environment for both staff and prisoners. The governor also approving a new 5-story facility on the UW Green Bay campus that will replace the high-rise library. The new Coffran Technology and Education Center will house the library, campus administration, and the Departments of Student Success and First Nations Education. Sustainable elements will include such things as the green roof, solar panels, and natural landscaping.